Is this a great game or what? Thank you so much for having us on, and we really appreciate you listening. Don't forget to hit follow and subscribe wherever you're listening for free right now, and share it with a friend who loves baseball. Today, our guest is Mike Scioscia, who won a World Series as a player, won a World Series as a manager, and in the last Summer Olympics was the manager of the USA team that won the silver medal. Because we're very much still in the Olympics right now. I can't get enough of it.
Right, and Mike Scioscia also caught Fernando Valenzuela in his prime, which we need to talk about, among many things, with Mike Scioscia today.
Did you see the video I sent to the family text message?
I did. Why don't you explain what it was?
So, my daughter, McKinley, will have her first birthday on Saturday. It's Isn't She Wonderful themed, and it's all about the puns here. And she walked for the very first time last week.
Right. She walked yesterday, yeah. I was told, for the first time, which, by the way, I'll always remember that because that's the day that Aaron Judge was intentionally walked 3 times in the same game. Everything relates to baseball. This morning, Jeff, I'm at your house in Philadelphia. She walked to me. So
Did she?
Today was the first time I'd ever seen her walk. She turned 1 on Saturday, so she's already walking. This is so cool.
Yeah, August the 10th is her first birthday, and she walked on her original due date, August the 4th.
That is so cool. And your birthday's coming up on Friday. You will turn 31 the day before your daughter turns 1.
I want to thank you. Jeez, I want to thank you so much for bringing that up. My birthday doesn't mean anything anymore, and I'm very well aware, and that's okay with me. We've been planning McKinley's birthday party, I'm not kidding, since she was born. And now we're like, well, what do you want to do for dinner on Friday for your birthday? Wait, hold on, we're going to order pizza, or we're going to do this.
Right.
And listen, let the record show that I am totally fine with that. And I've told this story on the podcast, so I'm just going to say it one more time. A no-hitter was thrown on my birthday while I was in the hospital with my wife in labor.
Michael Lorenzen rooting for a no-hitter and for your daughter to be born on your birthday.
Yeah, she's born at 3:57, McKinley was. My wife, Emily, is an amazing mom, and she fought through the labor to watch the end of that no-hitter. She's a baseball wife.
Right. I had the best time watching McKinley walk today. And I remember the first time that you walked. It was great. You were 7, which was a little bit late. Jeff was a little late doing anything. You didn't get a birthmark, Jeff, until you were 4 years old, which I thought was a bit much.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, so let's get to the takeaways of what's going on in Major League Baseball right now. Dad or Pop-Pop, what do you got for us?
Well, Bobby Witt Jr. has basically been the best player in the game. Well, it's hard to say that with Aaron Judge and all these others. Right. But Bobby Witt just completed his 3rd 2020 season, 20 homers, 20 steals. And, we've got 2 more months of the regular season to go. So he's the only player to ever have 3 straight 2020 seasons to begin a career.
Wow.
I mean, that's how tremendous he has been. Also, Jeff, Mike Trout is out for the season again. And this is so sad to me because Mike Trout is obviously one of the greatest players we've seen. But the last 4 years, I believe he's played a total of 41 games now in all 4 second halves combined.
Wow.
That's how many times he's got hurt. But, Jeff, I'm a little worried about this. I got asked the other day, do I think Mike Trout is going to be a Hall of Famer someday? And the answer is yes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Now, granted, he's going to play a lot more than this, but if his career ended today, he has to be a Hall of Famer.
Really?
I think so. He's got 3 MVPs. 11 players have won 3 MVPs. The only one to win more was Barry Bonds with 7. And all 11 of those guys are in the Hall of Fame, except for, of course, the guys who aren't eligible or who have a connection to performance-enhancing drugs. Mike Trout is the only player to finish in the top 2 of the MVP voting in each of his first 5 full seasons. Nobody has ever done it in each of their first 2 full seasons.
Wow.
He did it his first 5. And then you look at a career OPS of 991 and a 200 stolen bases. The only other player in history that has 200 steals and an OPS that high is Barry Bonds. That's it. That's the list. So, sorry, just showing he's not very durable anymore is not going to take him out of the Hall of Fame for me. Am I wrong about this?
No, I think you provided a really good argument. You came with the shield and sword to that argument, and it convinced me that, yeah, you're right. If he retired today, which not going to happen, but he would be a Hall of Famer.
I think so. All right, George Kirby pitches for the Mariners, and I've told you about him, Jeff. He only throws a ball when he wants to. That's how great his control is. He's the guy who threw 24 consecutive strikes to start a game once. I mean, in this era where people have trouble with location, this guy's one of the great control pitchers of all time. But I loved this the other day, and I'm not the only one that saw this, obviously. He went to pitch at Fenway Park, and the first pitch he threw was a knuckleball, which he really doesn't throw. But he threw it as a tribute to the late Tim Wakefield, who died recently and was one of the great Red Sox pitchers ever, and of course threw a knuckleball. For a young guy to understand the significance of Tim Wakefield in that ballpark and
somebody else's team.
And then throw a knuckleball in a major league game as a tribute to somebody else. I mean, I worry about our young players today. Do they really understand what the game's all about and where they came from? George Kirby showed me that day that he knew where the game came from. And the last thing, Jeff, and this is hardly a takeaway, but Kobe Mayo got called up by the Orioles, all right? Now, I'm not going to come up with the all-condiment team based on Kobe Mayo.
Oh, please.
No, I will someday, Jeff, but we got to have a guy named Ketchup, but we don't have him yet. But we have a guy named Austin Kitchen, who got called up a pitcher by the Marlins. And on our flight home, Kelly and I from Florida, Kelly, your sister, and I from Florida, I spent 2 hours on the plane coming up with the all-cooking team. And I because Austin Kitchen demands the all-cooking team, and I couldn't come up with it. I couldn't find it. And this is not the all-food team, Jeff. That's easy. Jake Burger, Jake Lamb. No. I want the all-kitchen team. Fry, Bake, Bake McBride, Dusty Bake. I couldn't do it. I spent
McBride.
Right, Bake McBride. So
revisit our Aaron Boone episode. I have to say, before you give us this list, you pretty much exclusively come up with best of all Tim teams while on flights.
Right.
So every time I've tried to teach you how to stream TV or movies on your phone while you're on a flight, you are interested in it, but I feel like secretly we would lose a lot of content on the podcast because you don't have the time to kill.
Right, because I don't have anything else to do, so I work on the plane. Speaking of your phone, Jeff, I met Peter, who's a cousin of mine, but distant cousin of mine. He came to Cooperstown 2 years ago. He is the nephew of Stephen Kurkjian, my cousin, the decorated, journalist, the greatest investigative journalist in the history of the Boston Globe. So I met him at the airport in Destin, Florida. He was on our plane coming back to Washington, D.C. So I met him again in the airport. So here's what I did. I'll never forget this. So I said, Peter, let me give you my phone number so we can stay in touch. So Jeff, he has to be a magician or a sorcerer or something. He took out his cell phone, because he has an iPhone like me, and he pressed it up against my cell phone, and mysteriously, his phone number came right into my phone. Jeff, how is that possible?
It's technology, Dad. And I know
Do you know how to do that?
Yes, I know how to do that.
Do other people know how to do that?
Yes, most other people will know how to do that. Dad, it's okay. It was a lot different than the day. You're not exactly picking up numbers at a bar anymore, but it's a lot different than when you would get...
Like I ever did that, right?
Like my mom, your wife, Kathy, like you had to get her home number and make sure she was home at the right time. You scribbled it on a piece of paper. Technology is crazy. Like we're going to get to this in a minute, we have a QR code. And if people want to listen to the podcast, if they hit the QR code, it'll take you right to our website.
He touched my phone and his phone number was in my phone. It was unbelievable. All right, we've gotten so sidetracked.
Yeah, sorry.
Kobe Mayo comes up, and I looked at Twitter. I looked at it way too often. Never a good idea for me to look at Twitter because it just kills me when somebody hates something that we or I did. I just am so sensitive to this stuff.
No, it's okay.
So I got like 20 straight tweets from people about Kobe Mayo. Can Scott Van Pelt please do a segment with you so he can announce Kobe Mayo's name.
Kobe Mayo.
Jeff, we had Scott on a month ago, and it was one of the most hilarious episodes we've ever done.
He was part of our murderer's row of guests,
right?
Because we had Scott Van Pelt, Cal Ripken Jr., Johnny Bench.
Right, 3 weeks in a row. We called in the heavy hitters, but that just shows you what people are actually listening to, what they're interested in on Twitter. They're not interested in any of this stuff that we come up with. They're interested in the name of the newest guy brought up by the Orioles, Kobe Mayo.
Game changer of the week. Who do we have this week?
Well, we have another no-hitter. We have Blake Snell of the Giants pitched a no-hitter. Now, keep in mind, Jeff, Blake Snell is the guy who has 2 Cy Young awards, and until that no-hitter, he had never pitched a complete game. In fact, he'd never pitched in the 9th inning before in his career, and he has 2 Cy Youngs. It's unbelievable. So the message here is that Blake Snell threw 114 pitches and still had enough at the end to pitch a no-hitter. Whereas Blake Snell has been the poster boy for how we treat our starting pitchers. Because remember, 2020 World Series, 6 dominant innings against the Dodgers, pitching for the Rays, and then they took him out of the game. And the Dodgers came back to win the game. Yep. And maybe they win the World Series anyway. We started to recognize the average fan. What are you doing? You're not going to let them face these guys the 3rd time around? Well, they've been doing that in baseball for 10 years prior to that. But when it happens in the World Series game, everyone pays attention. And the point is, maybe more people will pay attention that they left him in for 114 pitches, and he was great in the final inning. I mean, we're allowed to extend our pitchers. They want us to extend them. They want to complete the game, and the industry will not let them. So this is my game changer of the week. Let the pitchers pitch. They can do this.
And I absolutely love what he said afterwards. He said, I'm sick and tired of people saying he never pitches into the 9th. Well, I did.
Right.
And I threw a no-hitter.
Right. Absolutely.
What are our Kurkjians this week that you have for us, Stan?
Okay, Ezekiel Tovar, pretty good shortstop for the Rockies. We don't talk about the Rockies very much. He just finished an 0 for 28 stretch and then hit safely in 16 games in a row. Again, Jeff, I say this every single show. This is the beauty of baseball. How does anyone go well over a week without getting a hit, and then gets a hit in 16 straight games? Well, Joe Morgan in 1971, Hall of Famer Joe Morgan, was the last guy to do anything like that. He had an 0 for 31, and then he hit safely in 16 straight games.
Wow.
So it's just so bizarre. Speaking of bizarre, finally, Ty France, the new player on the Reds, started a game at first base, and the second baseman was Jonathan India. So two members of our all-country team, which we're not going to repeat because we've already done it, appeared and played next to each other on the same side of the field. And my dear friend Dave Fleming, who does the Giants game, did the Giants-Reds game. And those guys are playing first and second. So he texts me and he goes, do you have anyone else who has the last name of a country? He texted me that yesterday. And then, Jeff, because I have nothing else to do with my life, I texted him the entire team.
Yep.
You know, Germany, Schaefer at shortstop, Hugh Poland behind the plate, Mark Portugal, Derek Holland. And he actually laughed at the last one. Mike Monaco is the broadcaster.
He's the broadcaster. We love Mike Monaco.
Right. So finally, Ty France, Jonathan India played on the same team and right next to each other, first and second base.
Our friends at Strat-O-Matic, we are putting something together for you, Dad. We are going to put together a tournament-style bracket of your goofiest best of all Tims. I'm not kidding. Right. So we can't put the best Hall of Fame best of all Tim because that's not fair. But like the Eclipse team
against the all fruit and vegetables
exactly,
team. Oh,
and we'll see which goofy team actually ends up being the best of all Tim.
All right. So O'Neill Cruz of the Pirates, you know him, Jeff. 6'7", runs like the wind, a lot like Ellie De La Cruz. So he had a 3 strikeout, 3-error game the other day. The last guy to do that was Dylan Moore in 2019. Before that, Emilio Bonifacio in 2013, Ryan Zimmerman in 2007. It's pretty hard to make 3 errors and strike out 3 times in the same game. And I only point this out, just shows the degree of difficulty of the game. And then a couple days after striking out 3 times and making 3 errors, O'Neill Cruz, of course, went 5 for 5. I mean, this is how
it's the hardest game in the world to play.
I say it all the time, and people yell at me, but I like to think I know what I'm talking about here. All right, speaking of hard game, DJ LeMahieu of the Yankees has really struggled this year. He just doesn't look like the same player. So as of the other day, he was hitting 175 in 125 at-bats, and then he drove in 6 runs in a game. And they're the only 6 runs that the Yankees scored in the game. So now Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra, and DJ LeMahieu are the only players for the Yankees to knock in all 6 runs in a game in which they won. So that's the history of the Yankees. But I also found all the guys, well, the last 3 guys who were hitting that low and that many at-bats and drove in 6 runs in a game. Last year, Kyle Schwarber, your favorite player, had a 6 RBI game. Manny Pena in 2021 had that. And Charles Johnson in 1995 had 6 RBIs in a game with an average that low with that many at-bats. But none of them had all 6 RBIs in the game. That was the separator for DJ LeMahieu, who won a batting title in both leagues, and he's in such a slump, but he seemingly came out of it in one game with a 6 RBI game. All right, this happened the other day, Jeff, and I'd never even considered this. The first 5 batters for the Diamondbacks came to the plate in the first inning with no one on base and no one out. Now, do you want to take a guess how that could possibly happen? First inning, the first 5 batters come to the plate, and there's nobody out, and there's nobody on. Well, if you hit a home run, there's nobody out, nobody on. So I'm not going to torture you on this. Corbin Carroll leads off the game with a triple, and then the throw to third goes in the dugout for an error. So it's a triple error. Then the next 3 guys hit a homer. So now it's 4-0, and the 5th batter comes to the plate. There's nobody out, and there's nobody on base. And the Elias went back to 1961. That's the only time that any team has sent 5 batters to the plate in the first inning, and none of them came to the plate.
It's the first time.
First time since it. So, Jeff, you essentially have to hit
4 homers.
4.
In theory, right?
Right.
Or exactly
and
how
no team
Carroll
has
got
ever
on.
hit 4 homers to start a game. 3 is the record. It's done multiple times, and twice it was done. J.J. Hardy was part of the threesome.
Really?
He did it twice. He did it with the Orioles, and he did it with the Brewers. How great is that?
That's crazy.
All right, last one, Jeff. Clayton Kershaw made his 424th start of his career, and he didn't strike anyone out. It's the first time in his entire career that he's made a start without a strikeout. It's a major league record of consecutive starts into a career without recording a strikeout. So, I tell you what I do on planes when I'm bored. Sometimes I'll just sit there and do anagrams of players' names. So for Clayton Kershaw, and I've used this before, the anagram for Clayton Kershaw is L.A. Cy Hero wants K. L.A. Dodgers.
Yeah.
Cy, as in Cy Young, he's won 3. Hero wants K. So I would call that the biggest stretch of all time, Jeff. But here, he wanted 1 strikeout of the game, and he didn't get it, and it ended up ending his major league record of 423 consecutive starts with at least 1 strikeout.
So do we finally get your best of all 10 for this week?
So Jonah Bride of the Marlins hit 3 home runs this week. Okay, he had 1 homer before this week. Now he's got 4 total. Granted, very short career. So with Jonah Bride, I came up with the take a guess, all team Tim.
All love team?
All romance team.
Okay, romance. Yeah.
Right. Very good. Okay. The catcher is Rick Sweet.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
The first baseman is Ryan Court, because back in Pop's day, he used to court a young woman. So it's a bit of a stretch, but Ryan...
No, that's not a stretch.
Ryan Court...
Well, also, you can go to the courthouse to get married.
Right.
That's romance and love.
Right. Second baseman, Ryan Bliss, came up this year
Very
for the
nice.
Mariners. That's really good. Joe Sparks is the shortstop because...
Sparks are flying.
All right, Jonah Bride is at third. I had to split the outfielders, Bobby and Ellis Valentine.
Of course,
Okay.
yep.
Can't leave Bobby Valentine out of a list.
Can't he be our manager?
Well, my gosh, he's the manager.
We'll make him the manager.
There
We
you
won't leave him
No,
off.
but you can't use the same name. Remember, those are the
that's
rules. So
right,
I had
yeah.
to split them up. So
Okay.
Ellis and Bobby Valentine. Ellis Valentine, who once told me, I got more talent in my little finger than most players have in their entire body. And trust me, Jeff, Ellis Valentine could throw from right field almost as well as Roberto Clemente.
Wow.
That's how great he was. Okay, Bo Allred is another outfielder. And I had, of course, had never heard of this guy, Beauty McGowan, who played in like the early 1900s. You look on Baseball Reference, and there's a guy named Beauty McGowan. Who knew? The pitching staff is great, though. It's the best part. Slim Love. Never heard of him. Ron Darling.
Oh,
great pitcher and great broadcaster. Richard Lovelady. Of the Mariners, Brian Wu. You woo somebody, right?
That's a good one.
This is a stretch. Ron Romanic pitched for the Angels. Not romantic, but close enough.
Close enough.
Ron Romanic. He was managed by, I believe, Mike Scioscia.
Yeah.
And the last one, and my favorite one, is Buddy Groom. So
that's a good one.
Buddy Groom is 58 years old, Jeff. I would pay $1,000 out of my own pocket, at least $1,000, for Buddy Groom to come out of retirement at age 58 and pitch one inning so he could face Jonah Bride.
It'd be the bride
And the groom. The bridegroom at bat.
It'll definitely beat Burger King. I mean, it's hard to beat Burger King, but bride and groom would beat Burger King.
I think you're right. And again, we can't get into this again, but the Barney Fife one that never happened is still the biggest disappointment of my baseball career. Okay, enough of that, Jeff. So
All
that's
right.
the Team Tim for the week.
What is on this date in baseball right now?
All right, 1952, Satchel Paige at age 47, pitching in the major leagues, became the oldest man to pitch a shutout or a complete game. Not a complete game shutout. They're two different things. He's the oldest man ever to pitch a shutout or a complete game, and he did it at age 47. He won 1-0 in 12 innings at age 47. I mean, that's who Satchel Paige was.
Unbelievable.
All right, 1973, and I cannot believe I didn't know this. Roberto Clemente and Warren Spahn went into the Hall of Fame the same year. Okay. And the reason I say I can't believe I didn't know that. When you get into discussion from Ozzie to Oral, the greatest players at each number, 21 is shared by Warren Spahn and Roberto Clemente. Warren Spahn won more games than any left-handed pitcher in the history of the sport. And Roberto Clemente, for me, is the greatest throwing outfielder ever, the greatest defensive right fielder ever, and one of the best hitters I've ever seen. So if you want to get into an argument with anyone, you decide who's the greatest number 21 of all time. Is it Roberto Clemente or is it Warren Spahn? People in Pittsburgh are going crazy right now. I'm just saying it is at least a debate.
To quote the Da Vinci Code, as long as they've been a number 21, there's been killing in his name. That is a debate that people would die over because that's a really good one.
Right. 1957, Bob Horner was born. Bob Horner went straight from college to the major leagues. And our friend Val Vandebenner, who was Uncle Matt's teammate at Catholic University, was drafted by the Atlanta Braves the same year that Bob Horner was drafted by the Atlanta Braves. So Val Vandevenner told us that they brought all the draft choices to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium to let them know this is your final destination. This is where you want to end up playing. And Val, who was a great college player and got selected by the Braves in the same draft as Bob Horner, said it was unbelievable. He said every pitch that Bob Horner swung at, he hit a home run. And the rest of us are looking around like, we're college players also, and we're not even close to being the hitter that you are. That's how good Bob Horner was.
It's in the cards, one of my favorite segments, and we have to start off with a card that didn't come from a pack. It's our very first baseball card for Is This a Great Game or What?
All right. And who is the creative genius behind that, Jeff?
Oh, it's only my sister, your daughter, Kelly, of Kelly Joyce Designs, who did all of our amazing artwork for this podcast. And, well, we're going to be handing these out at the Little League World Series, and we're going to be signing them and giving them out to players.
Kelly is a brilliant artist,
She
much
really
like
is.
Mom is a brilliant artist. How bad is Dad at art?
He's so bad that his parents used to hang his art on the inside of the refrigerator. You know, he laughs so hard, and that's his joke. That was his joke he uses all the time.
I loaned it to you, Jeff.
Thank
All
you.
right, here we go.
Thank you. All right, first one, we've got Bailey Ober of the Twins.
Right, Bailey Ober is red hot, and the Twins are on the move up because they're pitching Bailey Ober. So the other day, Jeff, he had an 8-inning, no-run, 1-hit, 10 strikeout game. That's the second time in his Twins career he's pitched at least 8 innings, no runs, 1 or 0 hits, and at least 10 strikeouts. And the only Twins/Washington Senators pitcher, because that's where they came from, to have multiple ones of those were Walter Johnson, who had 3. Did I ever tell you I went to Walter Johnson High School? Right.
They were our rival. Not a great football team when I was growing up at Quince Orchard High School. What up, go Cougars?
Right, go ahead.
All right, next up. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up such an unpleasant subject. Why don't you give me a paper cut and pour lemon juice in
We're
it?
closed.
David Wells, a Boston Red Sox little throwback card here.
All right, David Wells is a big, portly, chunky pitcher, and I saw him dunk a basketball once. So please, don't tell me that chunky baseball players cannot be good basketball players, because he was. And, of course, David Wells pitched a perfect game once, and he jokingly said, I retired 27 straight batters, then I went out after the game and knocked down 27 straight Heineken. So I think you deserve it if you pitch a perfect game.
You know, my favorite David Wells story is when he actually won in an auction a Babe Ruth cap.
Right.
Remember this?
And then he wore it in a game.
He wore it in a game. He got fined by Major League Baseball.
And he said, I don't care. I'm wearing it. Right.
And then he sold it years later in auction for like 5 times what he paid for.
Right.
So the $5,000 fine really meant nothing to him at that time because he's a collector. So there's David Wells for you. Hunter Green of the Cincinnati Reds.
Right. Hunter Green throws 100, Jeff. Remember, this guy was drafted 7 years ago by the Reds. He was a dual player. He was a hitter and a pitcher, and he had to make up his mind, what should I be a hitter or a pitcher, unlike Shohei Ohtani, who's obviously both. It just shows you how hard it is. But he throws 100, and he's really coming into his own. He's a strikeout machine. Only great things are ahead for Hunter Green.
Who was the guy who just threw 104? Did you see that?
Yeah, Ben Joyce, 104.7 for the Angels. Struck out J.D. Martinez to end the game. Jeff, 104.7, and he's a rookie.
You know, they say the difference between like 96 and 98 is like a world of difference. The difference between 98 and 100. What's the difference between 100 and 104?
I've never seen this before because
unbelievable.
It's never been tracked at 104.7 since we've done the StatCast thing for the last 20 or so years.
Steve Traxel.
All right, Steve Traxel was a good major league pitcher and a really good guy, but he was also the slowest worker of all time. He would have never made it through the shot clock era that we have in the big leagues.
Slower than Clay Buchholz?
Yes, and slower than Josh Beckett, which is really saying something. So once Mark Grace screamed at Steve Traxel, throw the damn ball, it's hot out here. And they were teammates. He was yelling that from first base to his own pitcher. But Steve Traxel was really good.
Connor Joe, last but not
All right,
least.
special place in my heart, Connor Joe of the Pirates. I love that his last name is Joe. I've done a list, Jeff, a team, we'll do it someday, of players whose last name is a first name, and he's a perfect example, Connor Joe. But here's the thing for me, Jeff. The doctor that delivered Uncle Andy, Uncle Matt, and your father was named Joe Connor. Dr. Connor, his name was Joe Connor, and there's a guy in the Pirates named Connor Joe.
It's kind of perfect.
I love that.
All right. Next up is League in Lids. We've taken every single Major League Baseball team. We've gotten through more than half of the teams now, so my hat's getting light here. Right. So let's see what we've got. We've got the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, boy.
Eek,
Poor White Sox.
eek.
One of 7 teams now to lose 20 consecutive games. Jeff, through Sunday, they were 60 games under 500. They have a 20-game losing streak as of through Sunday and a 14-game losing streak in the same season. And nobody wins from this, Jeff. You know, it's just such a terrible time to be on the White Sox, a White Sox fan, you know, running the White Sox, anything, and it's not healthy for the game. There's a team that's that bad. But the American League record is 21 consecutive losses held by the 1988 Orioles. And who covered that team, Jeff? So
must have been really tough being the beat guy.
It was not easy. And as you remember, Jeff, it was the first 21 games that the Orioles lost. So they're 0-21 before they finally won, by the way, in Chicago against the White Sox. That's where their 21 game. So I've told the story again. You're going to hear it again. I don't care. So after loss number 17 in a row, Frank Robinson, the manager of the Orioles, takes the writers out to eat. He's never done that before, never did it after. I think just need a little support. So halfway through dinner, Frank, big kidder that he is, I say to Frank, anyone interesting called you during this streak? And he goes, yeah, the president called me today. So knowing he's a big kidder, I pushed him 3 times. And he said, damn it, the president of the United States called me today. I said, Frank, what did he say? He said, Frank, I know what you're going through. And Frank Robinson said, Mr. President, you got no idea what I'm going through. And that's what Pedro Grifol, the manager of the White Sox, is going through. You lose 20 games in a row. They haven't won a game in 3 weeks through Sunday. It's just not a good time for the White Sox or their fans. And let's hope they get through this because this is not healthy for baseball.
Our Kurkjian Quandary this week, because we are in the deep of the Olympics still. It has been so much fun to watch. The coverage has been absolutely incredible. We thought we would ask you, and you can chime in greatgameorwhat.com or on our social media. We post these all the time. Would you rather win a gold medal
in any event you like,
any event you would like,
winter or summer games,
for whatever country you like, right? If you're a United States resident, then boom, for the US of A. We've got some listeners in Canada, Australia, you name it, gold medal in your favorite event for your country. Hit a walk-off home run in Game 7 of the World Series to win. Hit the game-winning 3-point shot in Game 7 of the NBA Finals to win.
Or, and I know nothing about this, do the greatest rock show in history. And Jeff,
that's why I wanted you to bring this one up. I go to concerts for a living.
Right. I've been to 3 concerts in my whole life, which is terrible. Dan Fogelberg and Yellow Card and Kenny Chesney. That's it. At 67 years old, 3 concerts. It's ridiculous. So, but let's say, Jeff, you get one concert with 100,000 people screaming your name for 3 hours. So what would you take? Would you take the one-night concert, the NBA three-pointer to win the championship, a walk-off to win the World Series in Game 7, or an Olympic gold medal, Jeff, where you get to stand on that podium representing your country with a gold medal around your neck? I think it's a legitimate question. Now, I'll tell you right now, being a baseball guy, I'm going to go with the home run because Bill Mazeroski is the only player ever to hit a walk-off homer in Game 7 of the World Series, and I believe 1960 against the Yankees, that is the biggest home run in Major League history, but this would certainly rival it if you hit it. So, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing, right?
I think, with all due respect, and I love baseball, and this was really hard for me because I was going to pick baseball, Game 7. It's only been done once, a Game 7 series-ending World Series walk-off home run. So you would be the second, right? That's pretty legendary. But I think I would pick the gold medal, and I would do it in the 100 meters, so I would be called the fastest man on Earth. Because that's what you get.
No, Jeff, yes, you're right. But it's better than being the fastest man on Earth. What would they call you? You become the world's fastest human.
Yeah.
Jeff, when you're the world's fastest human, is there a better moniker ever? Heavyweight champion of the world, world's fastest human. You know what that implies? The only thing that can beat you in a race in the world is an animal.
Right.
It's like a cheetah. It's like someone that runs on 4 legs.
Now, I know what we're going to hear probably is people saying, well, it doesn't mean you broke the Olympic or the world record, but in that moment, in that Olympic Games, I would be the world's fastest human.
I would be the 100-meter champion.
Me
too.
too.
I would be known, if I set the record, as the world's fastest human. But I would take the baseball one. Now, Jeff, you know a lot about music and I don't know anything. What do you think it is like to stand up there and you got 100,000 people swaying back and forth, screaming your name? Nobody boos at a concert, Jeff, right? If you miss a C note or whatever that is called, you make an error in a baseball game, no matter how good you are, you might get booed. No one ever gets booed at a concert.
Well, I think that's incredible, and that feeling as a former performer. I once told you that performing on stage in high school was like winning the championship every single night, because no matter what goes on, at the end of the day, you take a bow and you get applause, right? It's the greatest feeling ever. However, that people are doing that all the time, with all due respect. Maybe not everybody's selling out 100,000 seats. I get what you're saying.
Right.
But people have done it and will continue to do it. I don't know how many people are going to be able to be the fastest human on earth or be able to hit a walk-off home run in the World Series. I think we're omitting one, though. Are we not even considering the NBA Finals?
I don't think. Now, I love basketball, and I should know, but I'm pretty sure no one has ever made a shot at the buzzer to turn a loss into a win in Game 7 of the NBA championship. And that's what it is. You're down by 2. You make a three-pointer at the gun to turn a loss in Game 7 into a victory.
Is it terrible that I would almost be more encouraged to do it if it was my senior year of college and it was the NCAA tournament?
Is
that terrible to say?
No,
I would almost rather win a national championship
people out
than the
there
NBA Finals?
would say if you did that for Syracuse, where you went to school, that would be better than doing it for the Boston Celtics, because it was your college, right?
I would kind of make that argument I would rather do that, but I'm a college basketball fan over the NBA. All right, so chime in, Kurkjian Quandary. You can do so on our social medias. Now, we're pairing up with our friends at Strat-O-Matic, and they are the market leader in sports simulations. They helped us out last week with the hypothetical trade, which would have sent Ted Williams to the Yankees and Joe DiMaggio to the Red Sox. So if you missed that, you can go back an episode and take a listen. And this one is one that you are really excited about because you were very much an active sports writer at this time.
And still am an active sports writer. I know.
You weren't really writing about Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio.
Right. Good point, Jeff. All right, 1994, August the 12th, the baseball season came to a grinding halt because of the strike. It was the worst thing ever. So the 94 Expos, who had never been to the World Series, let alone won it, were in first place. They had won 20 out of 24 games heading into the strike. And I did a story on this a few years ago for ESPN.com, and Felipe Alou was the manager of that team. Remember, Felipe Alou was on the San Francisco Giants team in 1962 that lost to the Yankees in Game 7, and Felipe couldn't get a bunt down in the ninth inning of that game, and he said, it still haunts me to this day that I couldn't get that bunt down and we lost that game. So now Felipe has a chance to win the World Series as the manager of the Expos. And he told me that team was invincible. Mm-hmm. We were going to win the World Series. And this is the most important part. He told me if we had gone to the World Series and kept that team together, because remember, they broke up the team after that season because of financial issues within the team. He said if they kept the team together, Montreal would still have a team.
Yep.
They would have gotten a new stadium from that, and they would still have a team in Montreal. That's how important it was for the Expos to finish that season.
So we had Strat-O-Matic run the simulation as if the standings at that time had then converted into the playoffs. How would the 1994 season ended up? And as you said, Dad, it's a lot more than just who won the World Series. This could have prevented the Washington Nationals from becoming the Nationals when they did, from the Expos and the whole thing. So tell us what they sent us.
So there were all sorts of series played, and the Expos won their first round series, but then they lost to the Braves in the League Championship Series in 7 games, according to Strat-O-Matic. Then the Braves played the Yankees in the World Series in 94, and the Yankees beat the Braves in 5 games. I think if you ask anyone on the Expos team, they would have said, we were better than the Braves. We were better than anyone. And Felipe Alou told me this when I wrote the story a few years ago. He said that when he went to pick up his equipment, because there was still some equipment in in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the Braves and the Expos trained together. They shared a facility. Felipe ran into Tom Glavine, who pitched on the Braves in 1994, and Tom Glavine looked at him and said, "You guys put fear in us."
Wow.
That's how good the Expos were in 94. We never got a chance to see them complete the season. And even though this is what Strat-O-Matic says, and we're all with it, it just shows you how beautiful baseball is. What would have happened if we had completed that season?
And if that season had been completed, maybe Morgan Wallen would have sang about the 94 Braves instead of the 98 Braves.
Right.
You know the song I sent you.
Yes, it was. What's his
Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, he had all the names in it. It was great. Yeah, it was really,
Andrew and Chipper.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We got it. Yeah. That's hip to the country music scene.
No, I'm not.
All right. Well, we're really excited. Mike Scioscia is our guest today. As I mentioned at the top of the show, World Series winner as a player and a manager, and managed a silver medal winning team back in the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo.
He's coming up next. Welcome back to Is This Great Game or What? And our guest this week is Mike Scioscia, catcher on the championship Dodger team in 81 and 88, World Series champion, manager of the Angels in 2002, and of course a silver medalist in the 2020 Olympics in Japan in baseball. Mike, this is my son Jeff. We're in Skippack, Pennsylvania.
I love it. So Pennsylvania guys, or at least you're in Pennsylvania. So Tim and Jeff, great to be with you.
Yeah, we got a Delaware County guy. Delco in the house, for those who know, in the local. Yeah, everybody knows now. As a former catcher, we had Johnny Bench on the show 2 weeks ago, and my dad sheepishly asked him, "Hey, can you still get down in a squat?" And he just responded with, "Why? Why would I do that? Are you able to do that?"
You know, I just had 2 knee replacements over the last year. So I'm like a bionic man. So if I had to, I could. But just to quote Johnny Bench, why? So I'm good. No need to check it out, but I think I could if I had to.
Right. So
One
Mike,
squat.
right.
That's it.
Mike, 6 years when Rick Dempsey was 60 years old, he caught that Daniel Cabrera guy in the bullpen once as a 60-year-old, and Cabrera's throwing 95 miles an hour, and Dempsey had no problem catching the ball. I assume before your knees went and you were 60 years old, you could have done the same thing. Don't be humble here. Am I right about that?
Well, I did it around age 55, Tim, with Garrett Richards, but I'll tell you, it was a struggle. And I got through it, but actually I only caught about 15 pitches. But, Rick caught for a long time. He was a special catcher, and for him to do it at 60 just says a lot for his hand-eye coordination. After I caught Garrett, I really didn't feel the need to go out there and try to catch anyone else. that was it.
Right. You also caught Fernando Valenzuela in 1981, and with Paul Skeens on the scene now, this comet who has just taken over the game. People ask me all the time, who is the comparable? And the best comp for me is Fernando, whose first 8 games, Mike, you remember he had 5 shutouts and 8 complete games, all of them victories. What was it like catching Fernando during Fernando Mania?
Oh, it was something special, Tim. I think as you get some years underneath you, you start to appreciate it more. You know, Paul and Fernando, totally different type pitchers as to how they get things done. Fernando had a 5-pitch mix that he could throw at any time, and impeccable command. Didn't throw as hard as Paul, but for him coming into Los Angeles with a huge Latino baseball population here, and just setting the world on fire with great talent. And part of Fernando's talent was his makeup. You could see the physical talent, his pitches, his command, how he can make the ball move. But he had ice water in his veins. He just made pitch after pitch and had a lot of confidence, and was a big reason why we were able to win the World Series in 81.
And Mike, in 88, you won the World Series again. Of course, Orel Hershiser completely dominated the postseason. What was it like catching him, especially in October of 88?
I've never seen a guy with so much confidence and the ability to adjust to situations and just repeat pitches as Orel did in 88. And for him to do what he did the whole season and really put a lot of strain on his shoulder, and eventually he needed surgery. But he took the ball and he pitched deep into every game. And what he did against the Mets coming out of the bullpen after pitching the day before and getting the last out about Kevin McReynolds is something I don't know if you're gonna see it in a long time. It was just a magical season from a guy who really I think should be in the Hall of Fame. He had a magical career.
And then you fast forward from '88. 14 years later, now you're a manager, and you started as a manager in 2000. In your third season, you take a team and win the World Series. What was that like, the difference between being a player and being a manager winning a World Series?
It's much better as a player. And I really feel in talking to guys that have won it as a player and a manager, when you're a little kid, and you're thinking about your baseball career, you're the guy that's up at the plate with the 3-2 count, bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth, and you're down by 3 runs, and you hit the grand slam. You're not managing the team. So as far as what felt better, there's no doubt 1988. 81 was nice, but 88 was the best baseball year of my career. I had the most fun. It was unbelievable. And for us all to chip in and get a world championship is something we still it's still a bond today. And it's nice when you do it as a manager, no doubt, or a coach. I felt great for the players, but this game's about playing it.
Mike, I was always struck by your spring training assignments that you used to give out to your players. It was a team building thing, and I loved it. Chris Butchek, I remember, was a golfer, and you sent him home and said, come back tomorrow, and in front of the team, I want you to show us how to build a golf club, okay? Tell us what you had Jared Washburn do. It's my favorite story, and if you don't tell it, I will.
I'll tell you, Tim, I got a lot of this from when you play for a guy like Tommy Lasorda. He set such an incredible environment of confidence and success, and he wanted everybody to understand where people came from, whether you were from the 4 corners of the world. You're in there, and you're a Dodger. So we wanted to recreate that with the Angels. And part of it was in spring training, having guys like you say, Chris Butchek, who was a golfer, to say, okay, you're a golfer. Show me how you make a golf club. And he went out the next day, he put it together, and those guys went out and hit some balls with it and said it was a really nice club. But my absolute favorite is the one you're talking about with Jared Washburn. We said Jared Washburn and a couple guys out to the Ostrich Festival out in Arizona. And so I expected him just to take some pictures, take some interviews. They had a little camera with him. So Wash comes in the next day, and I said, you ready to give your report? And he said, yeah, I'm ready. And he said, well, we really do a lot of things, but I think instead of giving you a picture, we wanted to show you something else. And in comes this ostrich. I mean, he was every bit of 10 feet. I mean, you can think it's an exaggeration. This ostrich's head would have hit a basketball hoop. And so this ostrich comes in, and all the guys are like, oh, yeah. Well, Ramon Ortiz didn't quite understand that they were talking about an ostrich, and he didn't know what it was. And he literally jumped on top of his locker, and he's saying in Spanish, get that big chicken out of here. He's saying it in Spanish. And it was hilarious. I mean, we laughed about that. We still laugh about it today. But we had the trainer came in, told us about an ostrich, and we tried to get Ramon to go over and just pet it. And he had nothing to do with it. He was not going to go near that bird.
You've had the opportunity to manage some incredible players, including the players you managed during the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And I want to get there in just a moment because we are in the middle of the Olympics, and it's a really exciting time to watch. But I want to ask just quickly about Shohei Ohtani and the wonder that he is. I mean, it's truly unbelievable how great this guy is as a manager for you. Is there something you recognized in him that maybe average Joe and Jane watching the game, or all the things we've learned about him that we already know? Is there something you recognized or saw that he does that's incredible?
Well, I don't think it takes a lot of baseball acumen to look at Shohei Ohtani when we were trying to recruit him and say that this is a special player. But as he signed and he comes into spring training, you learned things like how fast he is. You could do it on tape and get numbers. This guy runs like a gazelle. You look at how hard he works. You look at how meticulous he is in his preparation, how he studies the game, both at that time from a pitching standpoint and a hitting standpoint. And you just can't be in awe of everything he's about. His physical and just his makeup is off the charts.
Right. And Mike, how impressive was it that he wasn't able to pitch this year, was a full-time DH, which means a different job, and he has still torn it up?
Well, I think what's impressive about about Shohei is the fact that his stamina is incredible, and when he started to pitch and hit in the same games as a pitcher, hitting in the order, you just saw his opportunities increase. You saw the opportunity to turn the plate appearances increasing. You saw the production he can put up. So the fact that he's not pitching, I don't think it phases him much. I think when he goes back to pitching, he's going to be as dynamic as he is right now when he's just hitting.
Right. And Mike, you also had, of course, Mike Trout in his very best years. What was it like managing that guy during his absolute peak as a baseball player?
Well, no doubt. I think that same way with Shohei. When you see Mike, you saw, he signed as a 17-year-old. You see him as an 18-year-old when he comes into spring training, comes up to the big leagues at 19, is probably one of the 3 fastest guys in baseball that has, top 3 in power, top 3 in hitting ability, and the same work ethic. And he had a magical run, and Mike Trout will get back. I think he's going to have to change some of his workload and maybe move to left field as opposed to center, maybe DH a little bit more. But you're going to see Mike come back with a vengeance and have terrific baseball because he works hard at it, and he'll be that force again.
Mike, last week we had Eddie Alvarez on our show to talk about not only winning an Olympic silver with you, but also winning an Olympic medal as a speed skater, which just is unbelievable. Was that brought up in the clubhouse? Because you're one of those managers that loves to kind of thread the stories and get the players to know their teammates. Did that come up? Was he kind of a pseudo leader because he had been to the Olympics before?
Eddie's a tremendous person. Plays hard, understands the game, and yes, his leadership is there. And yes, it did come up. It was funny. We're sitting there talking in one of our first meetings, and I called him and I said, Eddie, how did this happen? And he went into his explanation. This kid's from Miami, where I don't even know if I think the ice skating rink is only open from 1 or 2 in the morning for an hour because the ice melts after that.
Right.
So he's in Miami. And all of a sudden, he moved around because he wanted to pursue speed skating, and won a silver medal in speed skating, which is an incredible feat. And then he comes back and does it and wins a silver medal in baseball with us. And what a great thrill! It's you talk about improbable stories. That's one. I don't know if you could ever say that a kid from Miami wins a speed skating medal in the Olympics, and that in itself is enough, let alone a silver medal in baseball.
All right, Mike, can you skate? Can you ice skate?
I skated as a kid. I did. Tim, I think that's one of the things that that time has passed. I don't think you're going to see me on skates anymore. But as a kid, we skated all the time and would play whenever we get rink time, play pickup games and. It was a rite of passage. We grew up in the Philadelphia Flyer era of the they came into existence in '67, but the Broad Street Bullies in the early '70s. So we were drawn to that.
So you were Dave Schultz or Bernie Perrant or somebody like that.
I was like Moose DuPont. I think I was just a big, heavy skater that didn't have any skills, but used the boards to stop them, but tried really hard.
Mike, for you, we talked to Eddie as well about another teammate on that team that you manage, is Todd Frazier. And he actually shared with us a video of Todd singing Aladdin, Arabian Nights. And he's quite a character and a friend of the show. How was it managing him? Because he is just a great player, a great teammate, but also a hilarious guy.
Todd's the best. And he was perfect for our team because he had the makeup you needed as a veteran to come in, but understood everything that everything he needed to do to help us get to our goal. And I have to admit, I haven't heard him sing. The guys were talking about it a little bit, but what a breath of fresh air he was. He was one of the oldest guys on the team, but he played like a 20-year-old and had just a great experience with us. And he's just a terrific guy. And he probably sings his own praises a little bit more as far as not his baseball talent, but the other talent he thinks he has, like singing. I could just hear him saying, "Yeah, I sing," yeah.
And Mike, can you sing at all?
Absolutely not. Tim, when we would sit out there and they play the national anthem, I just moved my lips to the words because I didn't want the guys around me hearing how bad a singer I was.
All right, seriously, Mike, what was it like standing on that podium with a medal around your neck,
yes,
representing your country? Tell us what that was like.
It's a feeling you can't describe because we play this game because we love it, and to get a chance to put the jersey of the country you live in and you love is really special. And I think that's just that's just part of that's just part of what part of what the lure was. So to win a silver medal and know how hard everybody worked to get to that spot was so rewarding, and I couldn't feel any happier for the players who played really good baseball and tough teams. Japanese team, we had them. We played them tough 2 games and just couldn't quite get the gold medal. But we played tough teams, Dominican, Korea. These teams are really good, and our guys won the silver medal. And for us to all contribute into it and eventually get medals is just it's just a feeling you can't describe.
We're going to have Todd Frazier on the podcast in 2 weeks live from the Little League World Series. So I'll make sure, Mike, to send you that episode because I have a very good feeling we're going to get him to sing. So you'll be able to hear that. And speaking of guests, right, we talked about Eddie Alvarez, Todd Frazier in 2 weeks. We also had Hank Azaria on. And you two have a little something in common because you voiced a character on The Simpsons.
Oh, I voiced my own character on The Simpsons. It was me, so that was easy.
How cool was that experience, though, to be on one of the greatest television shows of all time?
Absolutely, is the best. And we got an opportunity, to do it in the early 90s, 1990, with really what was the All-Star team. And I really didn't want to do it. I'm like, no, during the season. My wife made me do it. She said, "You're going to love this. This show is so funny, and I know you've seen it." So I went, all right. I can't tell you how much fun it was. And I can't tell you the newfound respect I had for all these actors that are changed. There's only like 3 guys that do all the voices, and they were changing their voices in a moment's notice. And you're just sitting there going, wow, this is these guys are really talented. So that was a great thrill for me. And then I got a chance to do another one later called, I think, Money Bart, and that was. It was a blast.
Do you remember your lines, your biggest line from those?
Well, one of them was I was working in the nuclear plant, and they were saying I was taking the radioactive uranium in a wheelbarrow and taking it down, and it spills, and so the guy was walking with me goes, I'll go down to pick it up. He goes, "No, Mike, just leave it there. It's no big deal." I go, "Oh, sweet. Like, I don't have to pick anything up. I keep going." And that was it. There wasn't a lot of lines, but it was just the whole feeling of the whole feeling of just being part of it. And the way it turned out, it was sensational.
Do you still get royalties from the show?
I do. I get my last check was 79 cents. It's funny. Don't laugh. This is real money.
Yeah.
So I cash them anyway because I feel I have an obligation. I don't want their accounting and their bookkeeping to get messed up. So I cash them anyway, 79 cents, and it's money well spent.
That is so great.
Mike, I am so glad that you had a chance to join us. Now, no Olympic baseball this year in the Summer Olympics, but is there a sport that you've enjoyed watching this Paris Olympics that has been fun for you as an athlete and a competitor?
Well, no doubt. I mean, I think in my heart of hearts, I always wanted to run fast. So track and field is incredible. As I'm drawn to how talented these guys are. But my daughter played volleyball in college, and so I'm drawn to both sand and and indoor volleyball. I think it's an incredible sport. And same with swimming. I really didn't start swimming till I was like 8 years old. I was a late bloomer. But to watch these guys and girls look like fish in the water is just incredible.
Well, right. I would ask him our Kurkjian Quandary for this week, but he's already done one of them. We asked our listeners for this week's episode, would you rather win a medal in the Olympics in whatever sport you would like, whatever event you would like, Game 7 walk-off home run to win the World Series, Game 7 NBA Finals winning three-pointer to win it all, or sell out a 100,000-seat rock concert and you're the headliner?
Wow.
But you've already won a medal, so it's, and you said it was the greatest feeling, something undescribable, but...
It was. I didn't never hit a walk-off home run like that or anything, but, to win a thing. But I've got fortunate enough to get 3 World Series rings, won a medal in the Olympics. So we're going to go to the other way, and I am definitely going the rock concert thing because I am a amateur guitarist who is very limited by one thing, and that's ability. But I enjoy it. I can't sing a lick, but I love playing along the songs. And I think if I could sell out, $100,000 the Coliseum or somewhere, and 100,000 people, and have the Coliseum just rocking, that would be unbelievable. No doubt.
Pivoting here, Mike. Speaking of 3, you never struck out 3 times in a game in your career. 111 times this year. A player has struck out 4 times in a game, and you never struck out 3 times. I know the game was different back then, but how do you explain how often you put the ball in play?
Tim, I found out early, it was really my talent, and I always could put the ball in play. Never really drove the ball as far as lifting or hitting over the fence. I think I had 12 home runs in my best season, but to put the ball in play, to work counts, to draw your walks, that was my offense, and I think you just try to accentuate that and move forward with it. So I put the ball in play. That's what I did. Like I said, I didn't impact it as hard as some guys, but I put the ball in play, and I think it's left our game a little bit, especially when you talk about situational hitting and you have guys on second base or third base, and you have to move them or you have to get them in from third. It might not be the sexy thing to do, but it's important in baseball, and it's important to get those single runs at times and score them with outs. And hopefully it'll re-enter our game.
Right, Mike. I know we changed the rule at home plate. You can't block the plate. I understand. I don't want any catchers to get hurt. I don't want any runners to get hurt. But just tell us about the time that Chili Davis ran into you. Explain that for us, please.
Oh, he hit me like a Mack truck. Chili was like 6'3", 225, and I got hit a lot at the plate. Jack Clark knocked me out, and Ricky Henderson knocked me out in AAA in Ogden, Utah, when I was playing in Albuquerque. When I knocked out, I saw stars. But when Chili Davis ran around to third base, and you don't even think about the runner, you're focusing on the ball, and I get a bullet one-hop throw that I just barely catch, and Chili's got his lean. And he hit me like a blindside, quarterback getting blindsided. And I fell back probably 5 or 6 feet. Ball held the glove, ball stays in my glove. It's a third out. So I think I'm rolling the ball back to the mound, and I was just saying, okay, don't even worry about your mask. I'm thinking I know the dugout's over here, and I thought I rolled back to the mound, but I actually rolled it like towards a giant dugout. And so I go kind of wobbling out to the dugout, and I sit down, and after about, this is how times have changed too. After about a minute, the trainer finally comes over, Bill Bueller. He says, "You all right?" I go, "Yeah, I'm all right." And you go back and you play, and that was it. But Chili Davis hit me the hardest I've ever been hit in my life, no doubt.
And you were a football player.
I did. I played football. I love to hit, but I didn't run. run into too many guys like Chili that were 6'3", 235, and ran probably a 4.40. I mean, he was a stud when he was young.
Oh, Mike, this was so great, and I love the Philadelphia connection, of course, and we record the show in Skippack, Pennsylvania every Monday because my dad is afraid of technology. So in our own little way, we were glad to kind of bring you back home to Pennsylvania for a little bit. And next time I'm in Upper Darby, I'm going to bring you up at some of the cheesesteak spots.
But I've been to pretty much every one, so there's somebody still around. But listen, great talking to you guys. Thank you. And Jeff, I'm going to tell you about your dad. You got a long way to go in this business to gain the respect that your dad has around Major League Baseball, with players, media, fans. He's a special guy. So you got your work cut out for you, Jeff, and keep going, and you guys be well. Great talking to you.
Well, thank you, Mike. That was very kind, and thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for having a chuckle with us, because that's what we do here.
Thank you, guys.
Mike Scioscia, an amazing guest for episode 20 of Is This a Great Game or What? And Chili Davis, first reference on the podcast.
Right. So Chili Davis was a really good switch hitter in the major leagues, did some really good things. But I'll remember him for one story. When he was playing right field for the Angels one day, Devon White, the center fielder on his team, was not on the field when the first pitch of the game was thrown to Jim Gantner of the Brewers. He was in the clubhouse making a phone call. So they started a major league game with only 8 players on the field. So somebody after the game asked Chili Davis, the right fielder, did you notice that the center fielder wasn't on the field? And he goes, well, of course I did. And I yelled at the umpires to tell them, but he said not only are they blind, but they're deaf too. So Chili Davis didn't just run Mike Scioscia down. Chili Davis was a really good player with a really good sense of humor.
Next week, we've got another episode loaded up for you. Please do us a favor, subscribe and follow wherever you're listening right now. Share the podcast with a friend or a family member that loves baseball, because that's what we are. We're a father-son baseball duo, just loving doing this show every single week, and it's not possible without you. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, thank you for being a part of our family.